Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is just going to be a quick video on finishing off this piece that I did, I don't know, probably about a month ago. Just playing around with the new winter ash trees and coming up with some different compositions on usage. To me, I felt that this needed, I don't know, just a little kick of excitement. And if I was to do that on this piece, I would add in some darker elements. I would stamp in some more trees in black here in the foreground to really push depth a little bit more. I wanted this one to look kind of icy and with a smaller range of values. And I think if I was to do that again, I wouldn't make the sky so dark, but I wanted to do some snowfall in here as well. And I did that with some splatter painting, but it could really use a little bit of kind of a kick of excitement. And one of the easiest things you can do, well, first of all, you can expand on the range of it and have darker trees here in the foreground, but the reflection card formats are just one way to really add in, kind of a dynamic element to existing scenes, especially when the location at the bottom of a given composition can represent either ice or water, okay? And you can get this really reflective look in here. And I thought I would do that. It's just, like I said, it's just a simple, super easy and fast way to achieve that. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to do here when looking at this, there's not a real clear delineation between the bottom of this wintry slope and the water here. So one of the things I like to do with this top scene when I'm making these reflection cards is I like to increase the value range of this area towards the bottom. And let's do that. Let me see. Just grab a paper towel here, use whatever type of toning that you do. One of the things I could do too, maybe, okay, now looking at this too, this is on a piece of semi-gloss cardstock. It's really close to matte though. It's slightly more satiny and coated than just a flat matte. But I could add in a little bit of either watercolor pencils or colored pencils here too. I hadn't really thought about that, but I don't know, maybe we'll investigate that. I'm playing around with watercolors a little bit more these days. Okay, so this is a pretty dark blue that I'm adding in here, and hopefully you can see that's getting a little bit darker. You can see it in comparison to over here. So maybe I'll define some of these little slopes in here slightly more as well. This is the snowy, I want to say brook. That's a different scene. Snowy bank. There's snowy bank and there's snowy brook. Okay, so you can see that like that, and let's see what this contrasting area down here looks like. See this right here? It's getting a little bit more defined in terms of this area down below. Still not quite though, so I like the idea. Now see, I can get kind of a general area of color addition like this, okay? Now I'm going for a really narrow kind of application of it here, but I don't know, I'm really enjoying using some colored pencils these days, so why don't I do that? Colored pencils and watercolor pencils. Let's go with this. Let's go with a blue violet here, and then just a straight black pencil, okay? Let's get a little bit more defined in here. I'm just kind of defining some of these snowy bank slopes that are inherent already in the design. I've designed it right into the design, so I'm just kind of reiterating that with some additional tone. So in other words, the shaded areas in the design, I'm just shading even more, okay? So you can just look for shadows in the design and just follow those leads You don't have to completely, make things up on your own. Make the darker things darker and leave the lighter things a little bit lighter, okay? There's some rocks in here, and I'll just add a little bit of shadow to them as well. I can add a little bit of shadows for my trees as well here. When you have these kind of stronger contrasts within these forms, they reflect better down in, this lower section. And that's because, this type of silver cardstock, I mean, it's not a mirror or anything like that. You can see there I am right there. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not glass. So the stronger kind of the visual contrast up above, it just has an easier time kind of defining, this area up above than having it more vague. Because, that silver reflective area is already going to kind of make, certain things a little bit more obscure. Okay, so that is another blue. I used a lighter blue too. And let's go in here. Now there's nothing stamped in black up here, so I'm going to treat this fairly, I don't know, my application of it, I should say, is going to be a little bit sparse, okay? I usually shade with black if I have black images up here, because I'm saying that that's kind of the darkest thing, but the darkest thing right now is kind of a darker blue, so I'm just adding this over some of my darker blue areas, making those darker blues look even darker. So instead of it looking black, it just looks like a, super dark blue. And that way it kind of harmonizes with the color scheme up here. Right down at the base of this, I'm doing a really kind of narrow application of it. I'm kind of going over some white pigment ink that I already applied in here too. So, one of the things about scenes or just, I don't know, just cards in general is that, if there's anything ever kind of to your eye that's seems like it's lacking and you're not quite sure what you can do, one of the things that can often add a little level of excitement is the increase of your ranges. Okay, so your range when it comes to colors, it could be the addition of another color, so you're expanding on the hue range. Temperature, you can add warm into cool, cool into warm, or make things warmer, cooler, whatever. And then there's a real simple thing, and it's often the thing that I do the most, I would say, okay, and that's increasing the value range of a given scene. So right here, I'm just expanding on areas that are darker, okay? And by making certain things darker, by contrast, there's certain things that look lighter, okay? You don't even have to physically add in the light. You could. I could add in some more white in here or something like that. But just the very nature of doing one or the other, if you make things look lighter in a given area, then there will be areas that just look inherently darker. And it's again, just plain contrasts against one another. So that's one thing you can do. You can increase your shadows, or you can add shadows to your pieces. Here's something I'm doing right here, and I hadn't really thought about doing this before, but I'm just adding some black into my darkest trees in kind of like one side of the trunk, one side of the branches, like the underside of some of these branches like this, and that makes it gives it a little bit more kind of dimension This is kind of cool, so you can do that. I do have some white in the trees, like acting as snow, but I don't know, this is the first time I've done this with a tree, just going over, you know, the bare tree and expanding on the range of tones in here. These trees that are kind of more blue, lighter blue, I'll use a darker blue on some of the branches or the main trunk. Black was a little bit too dark, you know, for some of these lighter trees. But a darker blue against a light blue kind of seems like it's working out. And see, what I'm doing for this one is I'm increasing the value range, the contrast within the trees. So I think that'll reflect better in the water, you know, having that little bit of added contrast. We'll see. Okay. So let's take a look and see how that looks. Yeah, I think our trees. Now, see, one of the things about reflections is, you know, the viewer's eye goes right down here. So how things look up here, you know, I mean, it's important. It's the main scene, but to me, it's the reflective area like that that's kind of a big part of the excitement of this piece. So I think that's looking pretty good. I don't know. I'm really psyched about this kind of idea of, you know, adding in these darker shadows into these trees, so you can stamp out your trees lighter. You don't always have to do it in black, but you can do them in just a lighter tone than black. You know, it's still dark, you know, blue here, but, you know, we can make them look a little bit more kind of full and developed. Developed in terms of lighting or dimension. Okay, interesting. All right, so that is that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here. Okay, so let's do this. Let's add in a little bit of some additional highlighting work in here. I wanted to do, I think in this scene too, it was like a real quick scene that I wanted to do. I think in the video that where we did this one. So I think I didn't get to a lot of the little details that could be, you know, added. Yeah, given a little bit more time. So I'm taking it that that's why I didn't do this before. So right now I'm just kind of highlighting some of these rocks in here that are have a little bit of snow on the top of them. That got colored out, you know, because of the coloring job we do. I wasn't trying to avoid all those little rocks in there, but with the coloring, knowing that I can just come back in with a paint pen or some white pigment ink and add that back into it. All right. So that's what we have here. Now there's another rock right over here. Let's put a little hot snow on top of that one as well. Adding a little bit more. This is really fun stuff, adding these little highlight types of things into it. It kind of brings the piece alive a lot of times. Okay, I think that probably do it. It's a lot more defined in here, isn't it? Okay, so let's see. Let's grab the trees. Looks like they're right here on my desk. I don't have to go around looking for them. I don't think I need the small one, but what we'll do is we'll add in on this lower section some more trees. that will represent trees in the foreground. They kind of work as framing devices. And I'll do it right over here and over here. Maybe another one like right down here, like it's kind of closer to us as far as the viewing location. Right there. All right. I don't know, I was looking to make sure that I'm not going to be covering something up. It looks like this one we can just practically stamp it wherever we want. We're not going to be blocking out something that's reflecting down here that we don't want blocked out. So our little character, skier and dog, it's more centrally located, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, and when you're stamping onto foil, I've mentioned this before, but with the StazOn, you're pretty good. I used to do this with my Brilliance ink and then have to spray seal the Brilliance ink to make it adhere, but just with the StazOn, it dries and it adheres to foils with 0 issues, and so you don't even need to worry about it. And so I don't worry about it like at all anymore. Let's go with another one down here. Ink up more than you think you're going to need. Okay, so that's what that looks like right there. So we want to make our cards kind of, I think making our cards going from, decent to, I don't know. If someone hasn't seen a reflection card before, they might even think it looks really spectacular, and kind of keeps their attention, for a little bit, observing that. Oh, the reflection, the lighting in it, because you have lighting coming from, reflecting off the silver, the parallax, kind of moving these, back and forth like that. And it really doesn't take too much to do. I mean, you could have just added this lower section down here, into that interior folded card, I think, and that improved the piece, I don't know, 300% maybe, I don't know, something like that. To me it did, at least. All right, so we'll take a look at it like this. See these trees down here, how that really reflects off that. What I was talking about with that parallax, how you move it like this, and you can see these reflections moving against the reflection area up top, and that's where that 3-dimensional kind of aspect comes into play. Okay, now you see these trees down here. They're, it's not like a solid pine tree or something like that, like a big solid one like spruce large or something like that. So what I'm going to do is and this is fairly dark down here. You might think of silver, and think, oh, it's really light, but it's not, it's reflective of whatever's, we have in here, okay? So if I put my hand right here, that one looks really light, but for the most part, it's going to be fairly dark like that. Okay, so what we're going to do here with this pen, and I'm not going to do it too much here, but actually now I'm thinking I could put a silver highlight in there too. I'm going to try a little bit of both. Let's try a little bit of white in here, and I'm just kind of curious to see what silver would look like down here. I'm going to do something too. Let's see. Let's finish our stamping. So I have a bit of the tiny rocks small here, and I'm going to put some tiny rocks down here at the base of this slope, but it's going to be in the water section, okay? So I'm going to add these down, just light, even pressure, okay? And what this little texture does is it just kind of, I don't know, it does a lot of different things. It kind of creates a little bit of a transition zone, but it kind of frames things off really nicely too. Okay, let's see. Let me see what that looks like. Yeah, it's like that. Hey, you probably can barely see it, but you see those rocks right there, down there? So it just kind of blends in, but it does kind of create a little bit of an extra transition area right there. So I'll move that around. Like you probably can't see it, but you can see it right in here. When I move those, you can see those tiny rocks, and that's what those tiny rocks look like. Okay, that's what I did right there. So I went for some darker impressions of them, and also some lighter. And there you can see it that way a little bit more. See that right there? Okay, so it creates some additional imagery to kind of work off that reflection coming from the the scene, the top scene. All right, so this is a silver paint pen. Let's see here. And I'm just starting right where like a branch starts off, and then I'm going, kind of creating a little bit of a highlight in there. Being fairly bold with it. I probably should test it out first in the light to see what it looks like, but I think this is the first time I've done silver on silver highlighting. It's like silver on black kind of, but since this is on a silver cardstock. All right, see that right there? I added more over here. I was thinking, I might be adding a little bit too much. Well, let's see what that looks like here. If I don't like it, I can always just go over it with a little Sharpie pen that'll disappear right away if it's too bold or something like that. Okay, there we go, like that. So this is what it's kind of, looking like more. You don't really see it too much, but when you go like that, it kind of stands out. When you go like this, it's almost invisible though, isn't it? And that's where the white would come in. Yeah, it looks like it needs the white. It's interesting though, just that reflective area like that, when you have the light kind of shining on it. It shows up a little bit like that, but people aren't going to be looking at this card, like that. So, okay, let's use some of the white. See, the silvers, the silver penwork, it's not, a light color, like that. And, it's only light with the light kind of reflecting off it. But right when you go like that, it's like a 70% gray or something like that without light reflecting off of it. So we do need a little bit more contrast, I think. Here, so I'll go over some of those little silver marks with a little bit of a, white highlight. So I won't, keep the white highlights separate from the silver. We'll just kind of merge them together a little bit in some areas. What you do too is right in the those little areas between where the branches are branching off. You put a little bit of white pigment ink in that kind of whatever point of emanation. I don't know what you call it, the notch. Okay, and it looks like a little bit of snow has kind of built up in those areas right there. Okay, so see that? It looks like that. Here, I'll show it to you like that. And then, so just little bits like that. Let me have a little bit more up here. A little frosted ash. And acrylic white paint pens, or acrylic paint pens just in general, stick to that just fine. Okay, so you see that little bit of snow on there? Yeah, that stands out a little bit more like that on those trees. Huh, being that that stands out a pretty decent amount, I'm going to put a little bit more in these trees up top here now, just to makes that kind of visual connection between the foreground and background, or that type of highlighting and the background highlighting. When you add it to this colored imagery, this pen work tends to look a little bit more a little bit more translucent. You get some of that color showing through it. Where on the foil, it kind of just lays right on the surface. On papers like this, some of the paint probably absorbs through the surface of the paper and into the pulp of the paper. So to make something really light with it, you might have to apply it, twice, go over it, a couple times. I don't want to do that everywhere, but in the areas where it's the lightest, like right in here, between the, this big kind of that trunk split. All right, I think that looks pretty decent though. Okay, see that like that? I think that looks pretty cool. I might add a little bit of like an additional touch up here too. We have our focal point in this skier and dog. I'm going to add a little star up here. I can do that in the form of like a little crystal or crystals. Or I can do like a little kind of 8-point star. Let's do that right here. Let's do a little 8-point star. Okay, so I put a little dot like that. Okay, and then I always do this little pull motion so I can get kind of a tapered star like that. Okay, so it's a little like check mark. Okay, and then I'll go down from that point. And then with these ones, since this is a real elongated kind of slimline format, I'll try to make these arms longer to reiterate that format. So I don't always get it in one, kind of check, so I'll kind of drag it out a little bit. And then these secondary little arms points, I'll do shorter. So it's a smaller little check like that. So it looks like that. Let's see, this one didn't get very dark or light defined. So I'll do it again like that. See, I'm always dragging it down because I can get a real consistent line like that. So you can just kind of practice that before you do it on your final piece. I kind of, a lot of times I have to practice it. I've been doing that for years now, so a little bit more comfortable. You got to get your pen flowing right, too. Sometimes if it's flowing too much, you have to kind of, drag it off a little bit. And there you go, like that. Okay, let's see. We'll get this glued in here. I'm trying to think if there's maybe like a word stamp I want to stamp in here too. It'd be cool. This one would be a perfect one that says like peace or something up here. I'm trying to think of where I'd do that on here. The exterior of the card too, just like if it just says peace or something like that with like some snowfall around here, I think that would be like really good too. And then they just open it up to this, you know. Could be in memory of someone that really enjoyed skiing or something like that. Or it could just be a winter card, with the North Star up there. Anything like that. There's other things you can do down here. You can kind of stamp in like reeds or something like this in white up here, where they'd be reflecting kind of in reverse down below. So there's all kinds of little things you can do. If you didn't have like these people up here, you can put some ice skaters down here, skating on ice. I think that'd be really cool. All right, so we'll get this form in and we'll show you what this looks like with everything nice and flat. I'll get my kind of my smudgy little fingerprints off of this base down here. We've got like a oily, the silver cardstock like this really catches like every little fingerprint that you put down in here. So you just kind of mop it off a little bit before you mail out your cards if you're going to mail it out to someone. All right, so that's reasonably clean here. I'm going to apply some spray adhesive to the back of both of these, and we'll get back and we'll apply it to our card. Okay, I've got my pieces sprayed. Oh, interesting. This one looks really frosted right here because of the, that aerosol from the can, I guess, kind of froze it or something like that. Or it didn't, I don't know, it didn't freeze it, but there's a lot of condensation on there. Okay, so you get that kind of laid out. Now let's just take a piece of paper like this. Look like this. Using that instead of my hands to get it, avoid getting it all smudgy again. Have your card formatted like this, folded, and then you just lay this right in here. Try to butt that up as much as you can against the silver piece, or if you do the silver piece first, then or the top card first, then butt the silver one up against the top one. Silver isn't, the only color that you can do for reflection cards. The gold works really great for certain types of color schemes. It really warms things up, and you get that warm lighting reflecting off this bottom portion at the top portion. I wouldn't do it for a cool tone scene like this, but that gold is really great for warm color scenes. I like using the holographic cardstocks a lot. And the gold works really fantastic for, like these types of color schemes like this. And they're reflective enough for it. So anyway, okay, so I glued that in there. Inevitably, these scenes don't, fit exactly in here. I don't know, you trim this piece, 16th of an inch, 32nd of an inch, a little bit larger. So what I do is I put this in my paper trimmer. I just do an extra little thin trim off the the sides of this. See that part's like sticking up like that. So what I do is I just put this in my paper trim and I trim it off, a little 32nd of an inch or something like that. And I don't know, it just makes the card a little bit cleaner looking. All right, so that is it. You get your recipient of your card. Like I said, I'd put something on the front of this, be it whatever, it could be, winter greetings or something like that. And then they open it up like this, and there's this light that comes off of that, from the interior like that. It looks like it's lighting because we have our contrast working in here, but it's also when someone opens a card like this, there's light reflecting. It's almost like a mirror, so light is coming from within without having to do kind of any extra lighting effects. I don't think someone's going to open this up in a dark room or something like that. Could, but there's still, it'll reflect what little light is coming off of that. And then you get this kind of movement. So you have this kind of moving card too. Moving illuminated card in these reflection formats like this. And it just kind of makes use of the natural folded format of a card too. you know. So sometimes, you know, you can really take advantage of that with this type of construction. And I mean, it's a simple construction too. I mean, you have, you know, two images stamped down here. Could have been just one with the trees just stamped, you know, a few times in stays on. And look what it can do for this, you know, otherwise an okay scene, but just made so much more dynamic with this type of formatting here. Simple formatting too. I can't reiterate that enough. A lot of times people, they'll see a scene like that and say, hey, it looks great. But when I show them this, they say, I would never be able to do that, okay? And all it is just, you know, putting silver foil down there, you know. And I don't know, it just looks, I don't know, exponentially kind of more interesting, I guess. So, I don't know, just that aspect of it, sometimes it just kind of dissuades people from kind of even attempting it, even though they might have some silver foil in it, I don't know. So, give it a try. Remember this area down below, I mean, it represents water, or ice in this case. And I don't know, it just makes it so much, you know, kind of more fun of a finished card. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you have any kind of cards that you want to kind of expand on, I don't know, the end result of, you know, look to ranges. Okay, so even this area up above looks a little bit more interesting to me. There's darks and lights within the trees, so it's expanding on that value range. Start there in terms of, you know, thinking of what you can do with your pieces. There's different things like textural ranges too, but usually if you just kind of expand on your value range alone, that alone can really add to the visual interest of the end result of a given card. And then you can think about other things like some additional touches, you know, textures and things like that too. Or do them, you know, do them both. I don't know. Okay, thanks for watching again. If you like this video, hope you like, share, and subscribe. Comment too. That always helps the channel. Always appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.